Hi, this is Ron Ball. Welcome back to Choose Greatness, your key to a happier, better life. I'm so excited about those of you who are involved with us in this program. This is your show. This is your program. We are in this together. And the whole purpose of this is to help you live a great life God's way. Now, the purpose of this show is very simple. And I know that many of you have tuned in thinking, well, what are we going to do today? Well, our purpose remains the same on every program, to introduce you to principles, ideas, to equip you so that you can have a greater life and a greater influence in the culture for God. So this is your day. This is your opportunity. Remember to tell as many people as possible, to get the word out, to use social media, to text, to call, to contact all your friends and neighbors and tell them again that Choose Greatness is on the air. Now, we're doing a series of programs that highlights an organization that I'm very excited about, the American Family Association. And we're hearing from people who love this organization, who believe in it, who already know about its outreach and ministry. But some of you, this is new, and you're just finding out about this organization. Well, I want you to pay careful attention because we're going to continue this series with the president of the American Family Association, Mr. Tim Wildman. So, Tim, I welcome you back to the program.
Ron, good to be back with you.
We're delighted to have you. And I tell you, this is a real opportunity for me because, you know, I'm with somebody who I have grown to respect.
Wow.
Tim is an individual, and his leadership has shown integrity, and I've always recognized that, and I want you to know him better. So you're going to find out more about the organization as we proceed through the program. You're going to see different graphics, you'll see their website, and you'll find out how to contact them. But I want you to know Tim personally. I want you to know who he is. So Tim, I'm going to do something a little different to get started today, because you're talking about outreach, ministry, mission, vision, passion, all these things that really matter. But I want to take just a moment before we go into the content of today's show and let our viewers get to know you just a little bit better. Now, you're married, you have children, you have grandchildren. Why don't you give us a quick sketch of your family and who you are? Just let us know about you for a moment.
Well, I got married in 1984 to my high school sweetheart, Allison, and so we've been married 33 years now. And we have 3 adult children in their 20s, and they amongst them have had 4 grandchildren in under, let's see.
I see you're calculating. I see you're adding it up.
I had 4 under 4 years. 3 under 4 years, about to have 5. So 5 very soon. So what I say is we've gone from 0 to a wad. a wad of little grandchildren around our house in a matter of 4 years. So our lives have changed dramatically. And they all live around us. We're fortunate not a lot of people have that opportunity to have their children and their grandchildren.
Now, you have how many children?
I have 3 adult children.
3 adult children.
And then I have going to have 5 grandchildren very soon.
That's great. That's great.
So what about you?
Well, I have my 2 children.
Yeah.
In fact, my daughter is Allison,
right,
which always helps me remember your wife's name.
Okay.
That's an easy connection. Right. And my daughter is the Kentucky State Treasurer. We've talked about that on this program. She's the youngest female state elected official in the United States. We're very proud of her.
Amen.
And our son, Jonathan, her younger brother, is now in law school himself and just doing great. He's just been elected to a position in the school, and he's already winning races himself. So,
Amen.
It's very exciting.
That's what we're going to talk about.
And that's why we're doing this program today. But the best thing is that both of them love Jesus.
Amen.
And came to Christ early in life. And we did that intentionally. We wanted them to know Christ. And I know that's where your heart is with your family.
Absolutely.
Now, the reason we care about our children, and in your case, grandchildren, the reason we care is we want them to inherit a safe and prosperous and godly country.
Amen.
We want them to have a country that is friendly to the Christian faith. We don't want them to face persecution. We want them to be protected, and we want their values that we believe in, that we've instilled in our children and ongoing grandchildren, we want that to be perpetuated. We want that to continue. So
Yeah.
if you care about that,
Absolutely.
I care about that. And one of the arenas that we both are involved in is the political arena. Now, I want to say something to our viewers. I've already mentioned my daughter on this program before. She started as a bankruptcy attorney, and she felt called to politics. And when I say that, occasionally, Tim, some people will give me some kickback and they'll say, called to politics? And that's exactly what I mean. God called her to politics.
Right.
And here she is, a young woman attorney, had never run for office in her life, but she ran as an open Christian.
Statewide office?
Statewide office in Kentucky and never run
Right.
before.
Wow.
She ends up with close to 750,000 votes, won the primary against two career politicians who had run for years, who were known all over the state, beat them soundly, won her statewide general election by 22 points, and received the most. I'll tell you why I'm telling you this in a moment, not just to brag about Allison, but she got the most votes of any candidate of either party in our state in the last 40 years. So she just exploded like a rocket. But the key is she did her campaign as a Christian, as a moral, believing Christian. And she was very open about that and very positive and very friendly, but very clear. Now, here she is in the political arena. My son wants to follow in her footsteps. He's feeling that same pull of God. But you care about politics, and the American Family Association is really involved in this arena. Am I right?
No,
Tell us about that.
absolutely. And what happened was, you know, I don't know how long ago, a few decades ago, we began to have this thinking within the Christian church that somehow being involved in politics is dirty or the devil's work and are unspiritual. You've heard all this before. I see the look in your eye. I've heard these. You've heard these arguments before, and I even read a book one time by a well-respected Christian leader who I won't name his name, but he wrote a whole book on how we should not worry about politics and government because it's a waste of time. We could be spending our time on more things that are more valuable eternally, and that may sound good initially if you don't add some critical thinking to that argument, because you know the Bible doesn't say necessarily we're to be a Republican or a Democrat, or we're to run for office or not to run for office. But what it does say is that we're to be salt and light, right? We're to be salt and light in our culture. And but this gentleman I was talking about, this other Christian leader, he was saying that it's basically a waste of time. It's unspiritual, but that we should. At the same time, he taught on Romans 13 that we should obey the laws, right? Obey the leaders, obey authority. Wouldn't the scripture say we as Christians are supposed to obey the authorities? That
part of a stable
the civil
society.
Authorities, the civil authority.
Right.
We among all people should be the best citizens. Christians should be. Well, if that's true, then we're to obey the law as long as it doesn't conflict with God's law, right? Let's be clear about that. And most laws don't. So we should be law-abiding citizens. But now, this same gentleman who say we should not be involved in politics would say we should obey the law. Well, my question is, if we're to obey the laws of the land, right, then why would we want only pagans to make those laws? That makes no sense.
Are you listening to this? This is good stuff. This is good stuff.
Well,
keep listening.
That's why I'm here, Ron. I'm just kidding. Seriously, why that doesn't make any sense to me. So disengage. They're teaching some of our brethren teach disengagement from politics because it is dirty oftentimes, and it is. You are tempted to compromise oftentimes on your convictions.
It's hard.
It's hard. But we need Christians involved at every level, from the school board to the city council to mayors to governors. Especially at those levels, because those levels usually turn out to be our national leaders one day. They usually start, like your daughter Allison has started, on a state, maybe a local level, then a state level, and then they go on to be congressmen or senators, and somebody will be president. So we need more, we need as much Christian influence and as many Christians as we can involved in politics and government.
Because somebody's going to make these
That's right.
decisions, and somebody's going to make these laws.
That's right. That's right. So if somebody's making those decisions anyway that are going to be voted on that impacts all of us, why wouldn't we want more Christians? As John Jay, the first Supreme Court Justice, says, we should prefer Christians as our leaders. Now, we don't have a religious test in this country for people running for office, and we shouldn't have a religious test, but we should also encourage Christians to get involved, like your daughter Allison, and run for office so that we can have godly people in places of influence.
Well, you know, you mentioned religious test. In an ironic and strange and bizarre way, we do have a religious test, but it's on the other side.
Right.
Because we have people questioning Christians and saying, basically, you're not qualified to be a judge.
Right.
You're not qualified to be in politics. This has happened in the United States Senate just recently.
We've gone from Christians, from Christianity being an asset to somebody running for office or somebody being appointed to a judgeship to now the hostile secular progressives in this country want to condemn you and disqualify you if you are a
But we had a recent confirmation hearing in the U.S. Senate where a person was attacked for being a devout Catholic.
Yeah, a former presidential candidate, Bernie Sanders. You know, he grilled, I don't know if he realized what he was doing or not.
I watched that.
He was grilling this gentleman who was an appointee of President Trump to a very significant office. And
it was a judgeship.
It was judgeship, and this guy was asked, okay, well, you believe things, and basically he was saying, this guy was a Wheaton College graduate, I think it was the case, and he was saying, you believe these things like Jesus is the only way to heaven? And I was thinking to myself, this isn't new. This is the teaching of all Christianity. But Senator Sanders didn't act like he knew that was true. And so he was acting like just to believe that Jesus Christ is the only way to God or to heaven, that somehow represented a narrow-minded, bigoted view of the world. Therefore, this gentleman was supposedly disqualified from being...
the liberal side is using a religious test.
They have a religious... You're right. That's a good point. They have a religious test, and that is if you subscribe to the historical teachings of Christianity, then you have no business being in government or running for office. They do have religious tests.
Now, remember this. If you're saying, well, Ron, why is your program suddenly veered into politics? It's not that we're trying to make you vote a certain way. We're not trying to control you. We're not trying to manipulate you. The purpose of this program is to inform you because the question is simple. Tim, I think you'll agree with this. The question is, who do you want governing? Who do you want leading? People who have your values, your beliefs, who have Christian views at heart, they may not be Christians, but they should respect the Christian faith. And they should honor those of us who follow Jesus. If they're not doing that, why vote for them? Why support them? Because human history is filled with examples of men and women who get in power and persecute people who they don't agree with. We don't ever want that to happen in the United States of America. That's why political involvement for Christians really matters. Keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And on a presidential level, you know, whoever the president is appoints the Supreme Court justices.
Right, crucial.
And crucial. And they support federal, the president, whoever the president is, appoints federal judges on the appellate court level, just under the Supreme Court. And those people, I often call these federal judges little gods.
They
with
have
a little
immense
G.
power.
Oh, wow, it's immense. And only 2%, 1 or 2% of all cases that come up through the federal court system ever make it to the Supreme Court for them to make a decision.
Oh, you mean most of us decided at lower courts?
Yeah, lower court level. So let's flesh that out just a little bit. We need Christian young people, smart Christian young people going into law school, like
my son is there now.
Going into law school so that they can, and law school is a challenge in itself. Most places are very liberal, you know that. But we need Christian young people who love God, love the Constitution, and love our country to go into law school, and then they can become judges.
Absolutely, because again, remember this, those of you watching, somebody's going to make the decisions.
Right.
You cannot just check out and say, it doesn't matter. I'll let somebody else deal with this.
Yeah.
We all have to deal with this.
They're going to make, if you get the wrong people in there, they're going to make decisions to shut you down.
Well, we're going to live in a country they create.
Right. And they're going to shut Christians down. That's the goal, their goal. They may, and they're getting more open and brazen about that.
Let's address the issue you brought up earlier of whether Christians should just be, quote, spiritual, unquote.
Right.
Because I've heard that from good pastors. I mean, very good men who love Jesus and love their congregation. And I mean this with great respect. I think they're misinformed because they have become convinced that they need to be in a spiritual arena and not the public arena.
Right.
But really, we have to merge the two to have a safe and prosperous society. I read a story, Tim, you'll love this story, about a Revolutionary War pastor. And I've got his name, I have it in the file. So it's a true story.
I think is where you're going. Muhlenberg.
Well, what he did, the revolution was beginning to erupt everywhere, and people wanted to fight for freedom. And he actually stood in his pulpit one day, and he had a long coat on. Now, that was a little unusual. He had a robe over it, which is normal back then. Pulled the robe off, and then he pulled the coat apart, and he was armed. He had a bandolier of bullets over his chest. He pulled up a musket. He's standing in the pulpit, and he said, I have fought for Jesus. Now I'm going to fight for a free country. And he walked off the platform and joined the army because he wanted freedom. Great story.
I think they call those guys the Black Robe Regiment. And they had, because he had on the black robe, and then he pulled off and he had an American uniform, a colonial, to fight against the king, the Brits.
Right.
So that is a true story. I think that gentleman's name, if I'm not mistaken, was Muhlenberg. But anyway, it's a fascinating story, but it goes to the point, whatever the name is exactly, the story's true, and it goes to the point of, that our founding fathers didn't see a problem with mixing religion and politics. In fact, Ben Franklin, who was probably the least Christian, or least religious, if you want to put it that way, one of the least religious of our founding fathers, still, he's the one that said, can a sparrow fall from the sky without God knowing? Certainly he knows what's going on here. That's as a constitutional convention when we were having our early days as a country, and he was saying, we need to pray. Here's Benjamin Franklin saying we need to pray. We need to pray. So our founders clearly, if you read the documents overwhelmingly, were all of them Orthodox Christians? No, not necessarily, but the vast majority of them were Orthodox Christians.
52 signers of the Declaration of Independence, 52 were evangelical Christians, and I think 28 or 29 of them had degrees in the Bible.
Right. That's why our early documents mention nature's God,
the Creator,
and those kinds of terms, because they understood, they believed in the God.
Exactly. George Washington said famously that you cannot govern. You cannot govern without God, morality, and the Bible.
That's in his farewell address.
He said that.
Yeah, that's in his farewell address, and that's, if somebody's going to write something in their farewell address, they want it to be remembered.
Well, I saw a book in a bookstore this week, Tim, by a very liberal writer who said America was not founded at all on Christian principles. They didn't even exist. And I'm thinking, what planet did this man grow up on? Because it's all through the founders' writings. It's everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Well, why do you think, is it coincidental that America became a Christian country? Overwhelmingly a Christian country? Dominated by Protestant Christian churches all over America?
Our Congress, our U.S. Congress, up until the 1830s, had congressional Bible studies for the whole Congress.
Yeah, so to deny the Christian influence on early America is just, it's either ignorance or it's intentionally deceitful for somebody to do that, because you look at the way the Methodism spread, for the Presbyterian Church, the Baptist, I'm leaving people out of the Pentecostals. I mean, all over the country, Christianity was spreading and was the dominant overall religion for our country. And so that's undeniable. That's just absolutely undeniable. In fact, one time all 50, I think I remember reading all 50 of our state charters for the different states in our country acknowledged God, or advocating for the advancement of Jesus.
What you're saying is this is who we are.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. This is who we are.
And it doesn't mean that you have to be a Christian to be an American citizen.
Just as
but this is our identity.
The history of America is honoring the God of the Bible.
Amen.
That's the reason we have Thanksgiving Day. To thank God.
Yeah, it's not being thankful for the turkey. It's thanking God.
No, and December 25th is a federal holiday. It's the only federal holiday dedicated to a religious holiday. Why is that? Because
the birth of Christ.
The birth of Christ. So
it's very interesting. We had a guest on recently, and I want to get your comment on this. We had a guest on recently who mentioned the objection some people make to what you and I are saying, and they'll suddenly fling up the term separation of church and state.
Right.
But I want to explain something to those of you watching. The term separation of church and state, you know this, Tim, does not exist in the U.S. Constitution. It's not there.
No.
It was written in a letter by Thomas Jefferson to a group of Baptist pastors in Danbury, Connecticut in 1802. It was a letter, not part of the Constitution.
Right.
And in that letter, he was addressing the concern of those pastors because at that particular point, Connecticut was trying to force those Baptist pastors to become part of what's called the Anglican Church. They wanted to force them to switch from being Baptist. And so Thomas Jefferson was really on the side of religious freedom.
Right.
And he was saying, no, there should be a wall of separation. They can't force you to join a particular group. He was defending Christians and their right to be free as Baptists in their choice. So say something about separation, that whole idea that people are misinformed about.
You're right. That's the history of the expression separation of church and state. Sadly, if you were to ask the man on the street in America, probably 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 would say, yes, that's in the Constitution.
It's been propagandized.
It's not in the Constitution anywhere. It was a quote from from Thomas Jefferson, you say in a letter, but even in that letter, what Thomas Jefferson is saying that the state should stay out of the church's business.
Exactly. It was actually to protect the church.
It was saying the government should stay out of the church's business.
Exactly.
It wasn't to say that the church should not be an influence on government.
Right.
It wasn't saying that at all. In fact, Thomas Jefferson, there in Charlottesville, where he had his home, Monticello, he founded the University of Virginia, and he did Thomas Jefferson schools of theology at the university.
Most people don't know that.
Right, and he went to church. Now, was he an Orthodox believer? He expressed some skepticism late in his life with some of his letters, but he was never hostile in any way to the Christian religion, and he understood how important it was on our society.
And let me make something clear to you, those of you watching. We want you to be engaged, involved in local politics. Tim said something a moment ago that's vital, that you start on a local level. You mentioned that.
Yeah.
So say something about school boards.
You start school boards, county commissioners, city council, mayor's races.
You can write letters to the editor of your local newspaper?
Yes, absolutely. You can do that. State representative, state senator.
And even if you don't run for office, you can still go to public meetings and hearings.
Support a candidate. Even if you don't want to run yourself, support the good candidates.
Exactly.
Who are running. Give them money. Wear some shoe leather out for them. Do some things that'll help them win in their race if you find the right kind of person who's willing to sacrifice.
Before my daughter ever became involved in her own political career, she, as I said, she's the chief financial officer of the state, but this is before that, she and Jonathan would go and volunteer in local campaigns and go door to door to door just to make a difference. You have to start somewhere. So what Tim is saying, and I fully endorse this, is get involved now, because if you don't, somebody else will, and they may not represent the country you want to live in.
Right, absolutely. I mean, we get what elections have consequences, right? So we get the kind of government we want by who the people are that we elect.
Some would say what we deserve.
Well, we deserve. Fortunately, that's not always good, as we've seen in the past.
Right.
So, but the bottom line is we only have one America. I often tell people I'm going to write a book one day titled "Nowhere Else to Sail To."
This is it.
Well, you tell me. I don't see anywhere else to go and start over like our founders did.
We, as Ronald Reagan said, are a city on a hill.
Right.
We're the beacon of the world.
Right. So we can't lose our country. We can't. We can't quit fighting. I don't know And certainly, if we lose our country, then we can't say, we shouldn't ever be said we didn't fight for it.
Yeah, and remember this, we're not talking about just Christian values. We are talking
Right.
about that. But we're also talking about freedom values.
Right.
Because there is a philosophy, a type of thinking that says that government should basically run everything. They should be big.
It's called
and
secular
powerful.
progressivism.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it's called that for a reason, because they think that progress is them being in control.
Right.
And so what they want to do is they want to squelch individual freedom, opportunity. That's where you get massive overregulation of business. That's where you get
Right.
economic control, because
Speech control. Yeah.
censorship.
Yeah.
Look what's happening on
Yeah,
universities
in
right
the
now.
name of, they'll have something in the name of forbidding hate speech or whatever,
Because-
so they'll shut you down.
Exactly, because hate speech basically is
How
defined as
they-
whatever they don't agree with.
That's right.
So,
That's
so
right.
my point is, this is serious.
Right.
This is serious. Now, Tim, can we have you back and talk about politics a
Sure.
little bit more? Because I want people to know what AFA is doing.
Right.
On your screen, you'll see the AFA information, the website, how you can contact Tim's organization, the American Family Association, AFA.net. You can get their AFA journal. You can request a free 6-month subscription. It's a great journal. I read it. My wife reads it. We get it every month. It's excellent, excellent, easy to read, easy to understand. They've done the hard work for you, so it's digestible for you and your children. And let me also say that Choose Greatness is in existence to help create an opportunity for you to learn these principles. So go to choosegreatness.com. Now I want you to go to AFA also, but go to choosegreatness.com. That is the sponsoring website connected to this program. And you'll find multiple resources, multiple books. Look through the whole catalog, because everything is practical and everything is built to give you great training to be a dynamic Christian, living a great life, and also having great influence for God in the culture, because your success will make you attractive to other people for Christ. And so I want to help you be successful as well. Now, also, this month, we're offering Choose Greatness, the book. Choose Greatness, the book. It's your introduction. Your kids need to read it. You need to read it. Your church pastor. Buy one for your pastor. Choose Greatness, the book. And the audio set, very important, the success test, because that will help you understand what you need to work on to improve your chances, your odds for success. The Choose Greatness book, the audio set, the success test. God bless you. Tell people about this show. Tim's coming back. Tim's coming back. And we're going to have a great show next time. God bless you. Choose Greatness.